Well, this was a pretty interesting find. This is one quad I've never owned or worked on before. This is a 2006 Roketa 250cc quad. These were produced in China, I believe from 2004 to 2009. So these were sent over to the US and sold at the dealerships for $2,500, brand new. So you could buy this brand new quad for $2,500, which is pretty good. And the specs on this thing are really not too bad. The weight of it with gas in it is about 420 pounds. So that's the wet weight. The horsepower is around 14 horsepower. Top speed of 53 miles an hour. It is a 4-speed with reverse. Has lights, suspension. I mean, it's pretty decent. The seller stated that he bought this thing pretty much brand new. I guess the dealership had to overstock on these and sold it cheap to him. I think in like 2012 is what he said. So he's owned this thing for a long time. He said he ripped it for many, many years with no issues. He said he put new tires on it, new valve seals, a new battery at one point, and then he said the swing arm bushings went bad as well, and he installed those. But he said he was having some issues with this a couple of years ago, and that's kind of when he parked it, and then hasn't started it since. So he said this thing was smoking a little bit. Then he said there were some issues with the clutch not grabbing. So he had this thing up for $500 on Marketplace. I offered $3. He said come grab it. So we're gonna see if we can get this thing running and driving today, and we'll see what parts we need to order up for it. But overall, it's in really good condition. None of the plastics are broken, no rips in the seat. Exhaust looks good on here. Like I said, there's pretty much brand new tires on here. Yeah, it's not in bad shape at all. Brakes work. And this thing is a full-size quad. It is not small like most of the China quads. So I was pretty impressed when I saw it. It almost looks like a Honda clone engine in here. But yeah, I was expecting just a small little quad, and it turns out it's a normal size 250cc. Even has a little toolbox in the back here. So let's get this thing off the truck and start working on it. Alright, a little walk around here. Even has little skid plates down there for the A-arms. Has the front bumper. Little fan. I'm sure that does a lot. Little cooling fan on there. Chain and sprockets don't look too bad. What's in the little toolbox here? See if there's anything. I can't get that open. Brakes are working. Battery must be dead. Even has an hour meter. Huh. We'll have to see how many hours are on there. Choke. Electric start. Lights. Kill switch. See if there's any gas in it. Dry. No rips in the seat at all. Has the grab bar in the back. I mean, it's not that bad for $300. Well, we got this thing in the garage. Let's start tearing into it. So the sticker, you can see, is from 2023, so I'm guessing it sat for at least 2 years. Starting with the oil, it looks like there's some in there, at least. It's at the high mark. Let's take a peek at the dipstick. Usually these little Chinese engines have dipsticks in them. Let's see. Oh yeah, let's see what that oil looks like. Ooh, smells really burnt. Ooh, smells like burnt barbecue sauce. That usually means that the clutch plates are burnt, but we'll see. Something got burned up in there. That is some bad smelling oil. At least there's some in there. It doesn't smell like gas, so that's good. But yeah, it definitely smells burnt. So that's the first check. We checked the gas tank already. I don't think there's any gas in there. It's hard to see with the sun. Oh, there is some in there. Let's take a flashlight and look in there. Yeah, there's some way down there. But there's definitely some in there. We'll have to check and see what that gas looks like. This reminds me so much of a Honda 250. Like the latch for the back of the seat, even the seat shape seems very similar. I wonder if they just copied the Honda 250. All right, so we've got an exposed air filter. So no air box. I don't know if it ever came with an air box or not, but yeah, I don't know what brand air filter. I'm guessing that's just the stock one that was on there. But at least there was an air filter. A little battery here. Solenoid here. So yeah, there's a big space for the battery. So that can hold a pretty big battery. Here's the fuse right there. Then you've got a little container back here for, I'm guessing, either a toolkit, the manual. And back here, I wonder if there is a toolkit in here. Let's get a pliers and see if we can get to that toolkit. I always like finding the original toolkit, so hopefully there's one in here. How does that open up? Which way does it open? There we go. Oh, there's actually one in there. So this is from 2006, almost 20 years ago. The bag is gone. We'll throw that out. But the tools are in it. That's kind of cool. You know? Yeah, all the tools are in there. Let's see what the suspension feels like on this thing. See if it's bouncy. Not horrible. Front suspension's not the greatest, a little bouncy, but the rear is pretty good. I'm not expecting much from these shocks right here. I don't know if those do a whole lot. Looks like it's just springs. But I'm sure shocks are like 20 bucks a piece on mine. This thing also has a full skid plate on the bottom too. I don't know if that's welded to it or... No, it's bolted down. Wow. See if we can get to the petcock here. And see what that gas looks like. Looks like all these plastics have to come off to get the gas tank off. Kind of a pain. Looking underneath the gas tank, looks like there was a filter. That's good. Going to the carb. Wow, this is a key and carb. Were these made in Japan? Huh. That's crazy. I thought these were made in China. Wow, that's pretty cool. I had no idea that I had a key and carb in here. And it has an accelerator pump. Wow. That's not a bad carb. But look at the air filter. It looks like it's pretty packed full of sand. That could be why it was smoking. I wonder if the cylinder is worn out. But yeah, it looks like gas is going to it. Alright, let's see what that gas looks like. Yeah, it's pretty gritty in there. Oh, there goes the gas tank. So leaking gas everywhere? No. Ooh. It's not a good sign. When you see sand on the inside of the filter, it's not great. Yeah, look at that filter. That sucked in a bunch of sand. Take a peek in there. I'd be really surprised if this thing ran. Look at all that sand in there. Sucked it right through. Not good. I'm guessing if you hit it. Yeah, look at all the sand coming out. Oh. Not a good sign. So we need a new air filter for sure. This gas line off. Wasn't on there real tight. What we've got going on for gas here. So reserve. It's right there. Not much coming out. I don't see any gas coming out. I wonder if that petcock is clogged. Not a whole lot at all coming out. Try it in that position. Oh, there we go. There's some coming out. So in the on position, it works. Reserve must be clogged. Alright, there's not a whole lot in there. Let's see what that gas looks like. Oh, it really doesn't look that bad. I don't see any water in it. But that petcock definitely needs to be unclogged. Alright, looking at the carb, you can see the sand and dirt really getting in. Not good. Let's see if the choke is working. Choke is right up here. Well, that was working good. So the accelerator pump squirts gas through that tube there in the back of the carb. We'll have to see if that works too once we take off that carburetor. Then this thing has a vacuum line here, which is interesting. It goes up to there, which then goes to here. Huh. And then out through here. Alright, just looking around the engine a little bit here. Here's the spark plug in here. We'll take a look at the boot here in a second. We have a champion plug in there. I don't see any signs of leaking oil from the valve cover. Nothing from the head gasket. Looks like some oil leaking right here from the pipe. Ooh. That is some thick oil coming out of there. So I don't know where that would be leaking from. It must be the pipe gasket. So we'll see. Oh boy. Well, let's start with getting out that spark plug. And I think what we might do is take a look down that cylinder, see if it's all scratched up. Alright, let's take off the boot here. See if there's any wire exposed. Ooh, it looks pretty rough. There's some exposed, but it almost looks rusty. Let's cut that back. 1/4 inch. Chop that. Still looks a little rough. There. It's looking a little bit better. So about a 1/2 inch we had to cut off there. Twist that back on. Alright. There might even be oil on it. Let's see. Yeah, just a lot of carbon on there. So you can tell that it was smoking a lot because, take a look at the plug. It's all full of carbon on the tip. See that? So, yeah, there's some oil right there on it. Lots of carbon buildup. So I don't think the seller was kidding. Definitely was smoking. Let's take a look down the cylinder, see what's going on. All right, turn this on. This is going to be very interesting. What are we going to see? Huh. Doesn't look horrible. Looks a little scratched up. It almost looks like it was like sanded down a little bit, but it's pretty darn clean in there, you know? No big scratches. Oh, what's that? Oh, that's not that big. So, I mean, actually it doesn't look terrible. You can see some oil pooling right there. So it's definitely bringing oil up to the surface there. But yeah, no massive scratches, so it should still run. We'll have to check compression. Let's take a look at the side view. Alright, there's the, looks like those are the valves there. You can see all the carbon on the valves here. That's not terrible. See, like right in this area, just looks a little bit rougher. Yeah. All right. So no huge gouges or scratches. So we lucked out there. So unfortunately, this engine does not have kickstart. There's only electric start. So we're relying on that starter right there to work in order to test compression. So in order to get the starter to work, we have to hook up a decent battery to it and try to turn over the engine. So let's do that first. We're gonna hook up a jumper. We'll see if anything lights up, and then we'll see if that starter cranks the engine over. All right, let's see if anything lights up. What do you guys think? Come on. Oh yeah. Neutral lights on. Tail lights on. Let's see how many hours we're on this thing. That's not working. Lights. Oh yeah, there we go. Lights are working. Oh yeah, sweet. Clutch pulls in. Alright, so a moment of truth here. Will the electric start work? Here we go. Nothing. Wonder if this brake has to be held in over here. Nothing. We're in neutral. Kill switch. Kill switch was on. Alright, here we go. Let's see. Alright. Ooh. It smells like that burnt oil coming out of there. So now, at least we know it turns over. Let's test compression. So I have no idea what this engine's supposed to have for compression. There's really not a whole lot of information out there on it, but I'm guessing somewhere in the range of like 120 to 150 is my guess. Anything under like 120 is probably not the greatest. It'll probably run with 95 psi, which it might be close to that because of the rings. I'm guessing the rings got chewed up with the sand. But yeah, as long as we have over 95, it'll run. Just not very good. Have to check for a spark. Forgot to do that. Alright, that's spun in there. Get our gauge hooked up here. What do you guys predict? We're gonna do throttle open. Let's see what we get. I'm predicting like 110. That's my prediction. Alright, here we go. On. Throttle open. Here we go. Oh, that's not too bad. Where are we at? 10, 20, 30, about 136 psi. Better than I expected. That's not bad at all. Let's try one more time. Then we can try it with the oil down the cylinder too. All right, here we go. Throttle open. Oh, that was closer to 140. So compression's not horrible. All right, let's put a little oil down there and see if it jumps way up. If it jumps way up, we know for a fact the rings are bad. This is a mix of Marvel Mystery and then regular 10W40. So it's going down here. All right, let's try this again. All right, let's see if it jumps way up. We're looking for over 140. Throttle open. Yeah, I can hardly turn it over. So it jumped up to 150, but it's not cranking very fast. There's 160. So yeah, it's jumping way up. All right, taking a look. Spark plug's right here. Let's see if we get anything. Turn this on. Turn over the engine. Oh yeah. Really good spark. Nice and consistent. Awesome. So we have good spark and compression. We're kind of lucking out here. I just saw the fan turn on as well. Check this out. The fan turns on. It's barely spinning in there. Yeah, there's like no air coming from that. I don't know if the fan really does much, but I guess it's better than nothing. All right, carb is held on. Looks like by two 10mm nuts. should pull right off of here. There's an O-ring on the back. Let's get our choke cable off. Looks good. Alright, carb is free. Wasn't so bad getting that off. Let's start digging into that. Alright, let's see if there's any gas in there. Yeah, a little bit. So carb was getting gas. Here we go. Accelerator pump's getting hung up on something. There we go. That looks pretty darn clean. Let's see if the accelerator pump was pumping. Yeah, you can see it was pumping through. Wow. Doesn't look half bad. There's a little bit of grit in there. I'm guessing from either the gas line or the tank. Really doesn't look horrible. Coming off. Doesn't look too bad. These are actually key hinge jets in there too. Take a look at the main. See what the main is at. I don't see any sand inside the carb. That looks clean. Main jet is a 105. That is clear. Yeah, that was easy. Alright, let's take a needle. Alright, float looks good. Needle looks good. Nothing wrong with that. Take a look at the seat. Seat's really clean there. And then the pilot looks like that's a 38 pilot. It's a pretty big pilot for a little 250. Let's get that out. Let's see if that was clear. That was not clear. So pilot was plugged up. Semi turns out on the fuel screw. We are 1, 2, 2 1/4 turn on the fuel screw. So we'll set that right back to 2 1/4. But that looks perfect too. So we can take a look at that diaphragm in here. So let's do that next. This little piece comes off here. I'm just surprised it has an accelerator pump. There's some gas in there. Alright, we've got the spring. That is a heavy duty spring. We're going to blow through those jets in there too. Let those sit in the ultrasonic cleaner. And here's the diaphragm, so I think we do have to take this off. Doesn't look bad. Yeah, that looks really good. No rips at all in there. Perfect. So diaphragm checked out. So let's go ahead and let this thing sit for about 30 minutes, come back, and we'll get everything back together here. Make sure that accelerator pump works, and then we can reinstall it onto the quad. Get this going in. Perfect. All right, set this to 30 minutes. Carb looks brand new out of the ultrasonic cleaner. I mean, that cleaned up really nicely. Wow. There's the bowl. Spotless. So we'll put everything back together. All right, carb looks brand new. Let's get that installed. All right, carb is all installed, looking good. Nice and clean, no more sand in there. Throttle's working good, so we can move on. All right, let's go ahead and take off the valve cover. I want to just check out the valves, see what those look like. Taking a peek at these. So you've got your intake right here, your exhaust. Pretty simple setup there. Alright, so what we're going to do is go down below, get this thing to top dead center, and then see what these valve clearances are at. We've got to take off this cap so we can see the mark on the flywheel. There we go. And down here, so we can access the bolt, so we can turn the engine over. Alright, an access port. Oh yeah. So we're going to rotate the engine until we find the mark on the flywheel. I'm not sure if it's a T or a line or what, but let's just rotate it and see. Now look for the mark here. I think I just went by it. Maybe not. F, I'm guessing there's a T then. Yep, there's the T. So there's an F and a T. F is for fire, T is for top dead center in there, as you can see. T with a line right there. You want to line the line up with the notch right there. And then you come up here. These valves should be able to click. Yeah, that one is. Not much clearance. That one is too, but not a whole lot of clearance. That one's pretty tight. Let's look at the specs. Maybe the clearance is really small on this engine. Like 2000s maybe? Alright, so I've looked at the specs. It looks like they are pretty tight clearances. So for the intake it's going to be 2000ths of an inch. For the exhaust it's 3000ths. Let's see here. No, that fits in there. So intake is fine. And we'll go to 3000ths for the exhaust here. See if that fits. Yep, perfect. Valve clearance is within spec. Very surprising. I did not think that was going to be within spec. I'm guessing the seller probably adjusted those periodically to make sure they were good. Alright, last step before the first start attempt is going to be to change the oil. So you can see the drain bolt right there. Luckily there's a spot in the skid plate to get to it, so let's drain out the oil, see what that looks like. We'll see if there's any chunks in there from the clutch, and we'll get that changed out. This just smelled horrible. It was all burnt. Oil's coming out of it. Unfortunately, that hole in the skid plate doesn't really line up very well with the hole in the engine. It was hard to get a socket up there. Must not take a very large amount of oil. There's like nothing in there. And not a whole lot coming out. I don't see any chunks or anything. Alright, you can see how black that oil is, but there's not a single metallic flake, no chunks. So I'm hoping the transmission's fine. But yeah, nothing came out of the oil at all. So right here, it says it takes 0.8 liters. So that is 800 milliliters of oil going in. It recommends using 15W40. We're going to use 10W40 wet clutch oil. It's good enough. Good enough for this thing. And we're putting in 800 milliliters. I feel like that's a lot. We're gonna monitor the window here. Almost there. It's all the way up right there. You can see a slight sliver. Let's get this old gas out of here. Let's go ahead and take the bolts off there. I don't think it was leaking at all. It just wasn't flowing very well through there. Yeah, that's the exact same petcock as a Honda. That's crazy. So, we're gonna put the gas tank off to the side. Start digging into that petcock here. You know, it could be we just didn't have enough gas in the tank too, but we'll check it out. Yeah, it looks pretty darn clean. Look at that. Nothing wrong with that at all. Let's see if the passageway is open. Yep. Yeah, everything's open. We must just not have had enough gas in there. So we can put everything back together. See if it's leaking. Alright. See if the gas is flowing. Oh yeah. Gas is in the filter, going down to the carb. Carb's not leaking. Gas tank's not leaking. I think we're good to go. So, I think we're all ready for the first start. We have good spark, decent compression, 140 psi. Carburetor's all cleaned out, fresh oil in it. Let's see what happens. Who thinks it's going to fire up? Alright, we're outside because this thing might get a little smoky. I'm hoping it doesn't blow a ton of oil out the exhaust here. I'm gonna find out right now, so let's hook up the jumper and see if this thing will fire up. Choke it. Go. That's really smoky. Man, oh man, does that smoke a lot. Sounds pretty decent though. It's idling really nicely. But look at all that smoke. Jeez. No knocking anywhere on the engine. Sounds really healthy. No ticking from the tap end. But it's just blowing out a ton of smoke. We're gonna see if the smoke clears up at all. Man, she's smoky. Let's rev it up a couple times. It's just dripping oil out of here. Like that's losing a ton of oil. It's just dripping from the exhaust. Look at that. Yeah, I don't think it's gonna stop smoking. That's a lot of oil coming out of there. I'm really surprised that it runs as good as it does. Well, we're gonna see if it at least shifts through the gears, and then we'll just attempt to ride this thing, I guess. See if it moves at all. Well, at least she started up, but she is definitely smoky. So something's going on with the engine. I'm guessing the sand just wore down that ring on the piston. And that ring, I'm guessing, is really thin. And now oil is seeping by that ring. And it's just smoking a ton. But I believe the culprit was the sand coming from the air filter. But yeah, this oil was just dripping from the exhaust. It's still dripping, you can see. So it's just pouring oil out. And he said he tried replacing the valve seals and that wasn't it. So he thinks it was the rings too. But yeah, it's bad. So what we're gonna do is attempt to ride this thing. He said the clutch was acting up as well. So let's go ahead and go through the gears, see if it shifts. All right, first we'll see if it shifts through the gears. So I think it's a standard shift pattern. So 1 down, and then 3 up, I believe. Here's neutral. Second, third, fourth. Yep, shifts through all the gears. All right, let's get a battery hooked up to it. Kind of. That's in gear right now, so it looks like we're in gear. All the way down is reverse. So we're in reverse right there. Not going anywhere. It's not moving at all. So clutch feels a little tight, doesn't it? Let's try adjusting that clutch a little bit. Yeah, there's an adjustment here. We'll try adjusting it, but right now we're in gear. It's not moving at all. All right, there's no slack in the clutch at all, but the adjustment's all the way in for the clutch here and all the way in for the clutch there, and it's still tight. It's almost like this rod here skipped, like it should be further that way. So we're gonna remove the cable completely and see if that springs back, because it feels like the clutch is just held in at this point. All right, we got the cable off, and that's how far it came back again. So, yeah, something's going on there. Either they replaced the clutch cable with a smaller clutch cable that couldn't reach, or this little rod got messed up and somehow shifted back further. But now let's see if it moves. Well, that was definitely the problem. So the clutch cable, like I said before, is either wrong or that needs to be moved further back. Something may be stripped out in there. So we gotta fix that. It was with the clutch cable disconnected. I looked it up, the clutch cable is correct for it. So this thing had to have moved at some point. So there's something going on with the clutch. So what we're gonna do is drain out the oil again and take off this cover. All right, we've got the oil draining. Let's get this cover off. I think there's one more holding that on. All right, now, let's see if she comes off. I think they're all out now. There we go. This is gonna leak oil everywhere. Okay, try not to rip the gasket. Oh, shoot, I ripped it. There's gotta be gaskets around. Oh yeah, look at that. What is that? That is some gross oil right there. Take a look in there. So, clutch plates are definitely burnt up. There's no doubt about that. So probably could use some new clutch plates, but there's no chunks in there or anything. Man, around there. Oh. That's what that looks like. Look at all the gunk in there. Yuck. Alright. Then, this is just like a Honda. You need a special tool. This is just like a 175. That is crazy. Exact same everything in here. We're going to take off the clutch push rod piece here and the bearing. And then you need a special tool to take off the nut in there. Let's get that. So it must not be exactly like Honda because this is the tool that Honda uses right here. And that does not fit in there either way. Huh. Yeah, so this one's too small and the other one's too big. I tried getting it in and nope. So that must be a special tool for that, or a special size I should say. We're gonna try just taking off the clutch here without removing that. I doubt it, but we'll check it. Springs coming out. I wonder if we were almost missing a plate or something. But I don't see any remnants of a plate below. Alright, so there's a C-clip here we can take up. Yeah, it's stuck in there. So there's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 plates. Or the plates could just be really, really worn down. But we can't do anything with the clutch plates until we get a tool in here to get that nut off, unfortunately. So we're gonna have to look up a tool and see what we can find for that. All right, so we're waiting for that tool, that spanner tool, to come in the mail. We are going to tear down the top end and see why this thing smokes so much. Let's see if oil was getting up here to the valves. Wow, there's oil up here. Got the line off here, carb off. Let's get the pipe off next. Whole thing can lift up. Crush washers below each bolt there. Rockers feel good. It's not worn down at all. There's 4 bolts in here. There's some push rods here. Oops, that fell down. That's not good. Here's 1 push rod. Alright, push rod is lost for good. Don't know where that went. Let's get these bolts off, and then the head should come off of here. Washers in each of those. That's what those look like. The washer. There we go, it's coming. Alright, there it is. One goes in the side. Alright, now I think the head can come off. Looks like it can. Hopefully we can get it through the frame here. There we go. Valves look good. Head looks perfect. Looks like a new gasket in there too. Get the head gasket off. That's a solid head gasket. Alright, and then cylinder. Little collars here. Coming on. Now all the cylinders should come off. There we go. Let's pull the cylinder off next. There's the push rod there. There's the other one. So that's for the rear. Let's see, it's getting caught up on something here. There we go. Cylinder doesn't look horrible. Take a closer look in a little bit. Piston. Go ahead and get this piston out. Get one clip out of here. I'm going to drop it. So there's the clip. Those are easy to drop in the case. And we can push that pin through. Pin came out really easily. It's a good sign. Alright, there's the piston. Now the rings were stuck. Oil rings weren't stuck. Doesn't look bad. Up and down, nothing. So a little side to side. No up and down at all. Great. So bottom end should be fine. Alright, taking a look at the cylinder first here. Doesn't look too bad. I believe that's steel plated. Let's see. Yep. So you can hone that out. Let's see if there's any scratches on there. There's one right there. You can see. My fingernail just catches that one. Couple down here. Fingernail can't catch that. So very, very light scratches right there. I'm not seeing much of a cross hatches right here. So I think the cylinder's pretty worn out. Kind of looks like it's glazed over, doesn't it? Top ring coming off. Let's see if that was the correct orientation. Doesn't look like there's any markings on the rings at all. Oh, wait. Nope. Not seeing any markings on the ring at all. They're beveled ends. Nothing. Must not matter. And then the second ring coming off. Same with this one. They don't look like they're chewed down too much. Maybe. Let's get these oil rings off. Piston's not scratched up at all. Really not a whole lot of carbon on there either. I'm not even seeing a ton of blow by except for right here and right here. But overall, it's not horrible. For the amount of smoke that we saw, that should be just covered in carbon. Maybe the guy didn't run it like that for a very long time. But, moment of truth here, let's see what the ring gap is. I'm guessing it's massive. Alright, top ring going in first. Let's see. Yeah. Well, that would be why it was smoking. Take a look at that ring gap. That is huge. That is massive. Let's just measure it for fun. Yeah, all three of those. So 69 thousandths. So that thick of a ring gap. It should be like 12 to 16 thousandths of an inch. So rings were really worn down. Oh yeah. I can feel like a sharp edge on these. Like it was getting ground down. Ooh, that's pretty bad. That one might be bigger. Look at that. Oh. Let's see what size that is. Yeah, that's bigger. That might be another one. So that's like almost 100 thousandths. Oh, it's still going. No way. Just about there. So that is, yeah, like 105 thousandths of an inch. Holy cow. That was why it was smoking. At least we found the culprit here. Let's see what size. So it's a 67 millimeter piston. Let's see what it feels like inside the cylinder here. Clearance here. Yeah, it's not too bad. Alright, we found a top end kit that's the exact same. Same gaskets, same base gasket, and it's 67 millimeter, 250 cc. So I think that's gonna work. And the great news is it's only 60 bucks. Because I found the clutch here, the same exact one. It says 7-plate clutch, and they're like 47 bucks. But yeah, that's the exact same clutch. So we're probably gonna order up a new clutch, new top end kit, put everything back together, and we should be good to go, I would think. Well, hope you guys enjoyed the video on the 2006 Roketa 250 quad. You know, picking this thing up for 300 bucks, I was not expecting much, but to my surprise, this is not too bad of quality. I was expecting a lot worse, but really, it's built pretty decent. You know, for $2,500 brand new, what can you get for that? Not a whole lot. So, you know, this is not too bad of a quad, and we bought it for 300 bucks, so you really can't go wrong at that price. If we put another 120 bucks into it, we'll have about 420 bucks into it, and we'll have a nice running driving quad that doesn't smoke. So I definitely think it'll be worth rebuilding it and getting this one up and running. If all the plastics were broken and everything was junk on it, I don't think it would be worth it, but because it's so clean, I definitely think it's worth rebuilding. So next video, we are going to get all the parts in and start piecing this thing back together, and hopefully by the end of that video, we can take this thing for the first real rip. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for subscribing. Until next time, we are out.